All right, so I want to welcome everyone to today's webinar. It is the BSHE Webinar, where we have an awesome program overview and application detail session for the Department of Behavioral Sciences and Health Education. My name is Wendy Hicks, and I'm the Assistant Director of Recruitment and Admissions here at Rollins, and I'm going to turn it over to my wonderful colleague as well as some of our awesome current students to introduce themselves.
Wonderful. Hi, I'm Megan Sullivan. I'm one of the Associate Directors of Academic Programs in Behavioral Sciences and Health Education, or more affectionately known as one of the ADAPs. So I work with a lot of students on what the curriculum is and kind of guide them through the student experience while they're students here. And I can talk to you about the curriculum as well as admissions.
Hi, I'm Monica Vadinelli. I'm currently a first-year BSHE student. I'm originally from Michigan. And my interests are in harm reduction and substance use disorder.
Hi, I'm William West. I am a second-year BSHE. I am from Nashville, Tennessee, and my research interests and program interests involve violence prevention. I'm particularly intimate partner and sexual violence prevention.
All right, thank you. So before we get started, I did want to let you know that we will open up questions at the end of the webinar. However, if you think of one while we are presenting, please feel free to type it in the questions box, and we'll get to them in the order in which they were received at the end. All right, I'm going to turn it over. Great.
Okay, so I thought we'd get started with our mission. And the mission of the department is to better the health of all people by advancing knowledge and training tomorrow's leaders in how to change behavior and social conditions that influence health. I think that this is really neat because our faculty, when developing an mission statement, really felt it was important to prioritize the training of tomorrow's leaders. So training our MPH students is something that's central to the goals of the department. Talking a little bit about what we're doing in research. So we mainly divide our research into four main categories: behavioral risk factor trajectories, the social determinants of health and health disparities, health education, behavioral interventions, and then the dissemination and implementation of those interventions. And under those areas of research, there's a lot of really interesting things going on in BSHE, and you can see the full list on our website. But some of the bigger projects involve sexually transmitted infections in the U.S. and abroad, the societal factors influencing early unplanned pregnancy, cancer prevention and control, and mindfulness interventions to prevent and manage depression and anxiety. So talking a little bit more about the curriculum is we really focus on the skills in behavioral sciences and health education, and that's what you could expect the majority of your 2 years to look like. And some of the major skills we teach are theories of behavioral and social influences on health, grant writing, community needs assessment, health education planning and implementation, program evaluation, survey design, and methods. The entire program is 42 credit hours, so we'll go through what those credit hours will look like in the next slide. So you're welcome to take more than the 42. A typical BSHE graduate graduates with around 48 to 52 credits, but 42 is all that's required. And it's a 2-year program, so fall, spring. There are no classes offered during the summer, and then another fall in the spring with graduation in May. And then in addition to your 42 credit hours, there is the Practicum requirement, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. That's 200 hours. And our students will talk a little bit more about how prevalent it is to be working in addition to whatever you use as your practicum, while you're here in Atlanta. And then also we have a thesis or capstone requirement. Both options are 4 credits, and those are included within the 42 credit hours. So to go by the curriculum really quickly, this gives you a snapshot of what each semester will look like if you're a student in BSHE at Rollins. To just go through really quickly, is all first-year students in BSHE take statistical methods. They also take BSHE 520, BSHE 540, and BSHE 579. BSHE students have the choice of either EPI 530 or EPI 504. If they choose to take the EPI 530, they must take that in the fall of their first semester. If they choose to take the 504, that will be in the spring. Also in the spring, students take community assessment, qualitative methods for research and evaluation, quantitative data analysis, and we do have them register for the practicum. You do not need to complete your practicum in the spring, we just have you register for it at that time. It's very popular to complete that over the summer, but you're able to begin as early as spring of your first year. And then as I noted before, there are no summer classes, so you'll turn in the fall, take program planning, either measurement or qualitative data analysis, and then I'm going to come back to thesis as well as the other 500 classes. And then in the spring, you'll take evaluation, as well as any other requirements you have left. What I think is really neat is in the curriculum, you'll see that it follows a sequential order. So community assessment, then you plan the program, and then you evaluate the program. So the program is very sequential when we teach the skills. And kind of moving back to we talked briefly about before, if you are going to do the thesis, and we provide lots of guidance around which option to choose, whether it's the thesis or the capstone, you do register for part of it in your first fall and the remainder of it in the spring. If you do choose the capstone option, you register for all 4 credits in the spring. And then you'll also notice when it comes to the Rollins requirements, which is essentially a requirement in every department aside from the one that you're in, we only dictate when you must take biostatistics as well as epidemiology, environmental health 500, health policy and management 500, and global health 500. Those are offered every semester and they're 2 credits. So while we list them in certain portions of this curriculum, you can really take them whenever it makes the most sense for you. Another one thing I want to point out about our curriculum are the community partnerships. So it's really neat, and our students can talk a little bit more about this later, is when you do community assessment, you not only learn the skill, you're also practicing it with a community partner who needs a community assessment. So you really also get experience for your resume as well. And just talking a little bit about your practicum, just some organizations where our students have worked and completed this requirement would be the CDC. We do have students that will go into consulting, cancer research, the World Health Organization, and we also have had students at Save the Children. So quite the range of where we've had our students complete practicum, and the list this is by no means an exhaustive list. And then talking a little bit about the culminating experience that I mentioned before, both 4 credits, and it just depends which option is the best for you. And like I said, we provide a lot of guidance around that. But you can see some of the projects that we've had, really quite the range. For example, a thesis project we have had recently was examining concussion awareness, perceptions, and management practices in Georgia high school sports. And a capstone example we have are diabetes and urbanization in India, disparities, causes, and potential solutions. So the capstone topics are offered currently under 2 very large umbrella topics, which would be health equity as well as grant writing. So you can really do anything under those 2 different umbrella topics, and then the thesis should be addressing an original research question. And another thing to kind of think about as you're considering BSHE at Rollins is the option to do certificates. So certificates would be beyond the 42 credits, but it's a way to tailor your electives. So if you think your electives are going to be largely in one area, we probably encourage you to look into the option of a certificate. The more popular ones for BSHE students are the socio-contextual determinants of health, mental health, and maternal and child health. However, the certificates are school-wide, and there's options to do the ones that are below, but the top 3 are the major ones pursued by BSHE students. And just to talk a little bit about the admissions process and what we're looking for, because we're very holistic in the process. We don't have cutoffs or anything like that. We are considering the whole student when we're making decisions, and all those things that we consider are right there on the left: your transcripts, testing, letters of recommendation, your experiences, your personal statement. And then any student that applied by January 5th is automatically considered for merit scholarship consideration. And then we have rolling admissions. We make decisions as applications come in. And then you can learn a little bit more about funding opportunities on all these links. As I mentioned before, there are some here on the left that you'll be notified by the admissions office. Other options are the Rollins Earn and Learn. The Rollins Earn and Learn you'll also be notified by the admissions officer you're receiving that. That's a really neat program if you haven't looked into that yet. And it's what we do is we incentivize employers to hire our students in public health. So it's one of the reasons many of our students are working in public health while they're here. And we also have a lot of students who are interested in doing some global work during their time in BSHE. And Rollins does provide, and Emory provides funding in order to make that happen through awards that you can apply for once you're here. And that would be the Global Field Experience Award as well as the Global Health Institute. So I'd really encourage you to look into those options if that's something you're interested in. And just want to give a plug for visiting Rollins. If you are an admitted student, Visit Emory is going to be March 22nd and 23rd. On the Thursday, we will have the BSHE Mixer, which is a mixer of staff as well as faculty at BSHE, so you can get to know us a little bit better. And then also there's admissions office tours and recruitment events, and there's the link for that. And if you have any questions that come to you after the session, always feel free to email BSHE@Rollins. All right, so I think we'll open up to questions.
Right, so let's start it. All right, so give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Okay, so we do have a question regarding if a copy of this presentation will be sent out. We actually will be posting this on our website. So the same place that you went to register for the webinar, there's actually a YouTube link there, and it takes you to the Rollins School of Public Health YouTube page, but we can send it out if you would like to. So please feel free to email us at spgadmissions@emory.edu, and we'll send you the direct link to the YouTube page, so that's not a problem at all. Our next question is, what is the timeline for when admitted students will hear from admissions about merit-based scholarships?
Sure. The admissions office has been notifying students over the course of the last week as well as this week. So if you are receiving a merit scholarship, you should hear no later than the end of this week.
And so another student would like to know, is the practicum a paid experience?
Sure, it can be paid or unpaid, so that's not something that we're considering when approving those experiences. So for many of our students, they say it's essential that they get paid, so they pursue those options. And maybe, I know William has completed his practicum, so he can talk a little bit about what he's done.
So my practicum was initially unpaid. At the end, they did give me a stipend that I wasn't expecting, which was really nice. But I did embark on the experience as an unpaid experience. My Rollins Earn and Learn job actually hired me on for the summer, so that helped supplement my funding over the summer so I could do the unpaid practicum experience.
And would you mind both of you talking a little bit about the work experiences in general you've had since you've been here?
Sure. So I did my practicum with the Women's Resource Center, which is a domestic violence shelter in a local county, and I worked with their summer camp with their kids doing behavioral interventions and group facilitation over the summer. And then for my Rollins Earn and Learn job, I am a research assistant on HIV studies that deal with a lot of different health disparities that HIV positive individuals face and different health issues that they are more susceptible to. And I've also, I guess this counts as work experience, I've been a TA for the second semester in a row. So for a couple of the classes, I've attended the classes and helped grade the papers and present different presentations throughout the semester.
So I'm currently looking for practicum, but I hope to find something around Atlanta or maybe Tennessee around harm reduction. I'm currently a research assistant, though. I'm unpaid, but I help transcribe interviews for a harm reduction study on opioid use in Kentucky. But I know a lot of other students who, have work experience, and it's usually manageable.
A lot of students work at the CDC in different roles and capacities. So.
So could you speak a little bit more about how abroad courses, or how does the JIFFE program work? So how would students get experience abroad, and are those courses, or is that just like a field experience?
Sure. So we don't have traditional study abroad courses that you may see in undergrad. So when we say things like Global Field Experience and the Global Health Institute, those are funding options you can use for out of the country, because sometimes students have difficulty finding, a paid position out of the country. So if you have a position, you can apply for these two funding opportunities, and that helps financially cover the cost. But you can go out of country for your practicum. It's pretty common for our students. If they would like to go out of country, they do. And then you can apply for those two funding mechanisms. So the Global Field Experience Award is a Rollins-specific award that you could apply for once you are a student here. And the Global Health Institute Award is also available to students once they're a student here that they can apply for. But that's a team award. So typically there's a team member from the School of Public Health and other team members from other schools at Emory.
Thank you. Candace would like to know if it is possible to take courses outside of Rollins.
Yes, it is. So when you're a student at Emory, you are a student of Emory University. So you can take courses outside of the Rollins School of Public Health, whether that be at Emory College. We have sometimes students who are working to fulfill pre-med requirements or something like that. We also have students take classes at the business school or the law school or what have you. The only thing is you do have to wait until the students at that school register first so that they have everything that is needed, the same courtesy that you're afforded as a Rollins student. And then you can register it and it's included in your tuition. Do either of you have experience registering?
Yeah, I've taken 2 classes at the Candler School of Theology, and yeah, you have to wait until after they register, and you have to seek special permission from the instructor and the registrar. I don't know if that's the same across all of the schools, but at the School of Theology, that is the process there.
Okay. Okay. We do have a question regarding if you haven't heard back about merit scholarships by the end of the week, if you can assume. I would say, Bridget, feel free to send the admissions office an email with that question. That's something that is a case-by-case, goes on a case-by-case basis. So please email us at sphadmissions@emory.edu, and we'll be able to connect you with the right person who can answer your question regarding merit scholarships. So Tim has a question regarding, he's a dual degree student in physician assistant program, and you were wondering if there are any credit requirement alterations that occur for dual degree students, and are any of the current students on the webinar dual degree students?
Sure. So yes, the curriculum does look a little bit different, Tim, for a dual degree student. The curriculum for the MPH year is essentially cut down to 32 credits. And if you email the BSHE at Rollins email address, I'd be happy to share it with you what that curriculum looks like. But you complete 32 credits over the course of a single fall and spring semester. And for physician assistant dual degree students, they start in the MPH program and then move over to the physician's assistance program. And then once they are completed with that program, then you are eligible for graduation for both the physician assistant program as well as the MPH. And what we essentially do is count 10 credits of the physician's assistance program toward the BSHE requirements, which is why you only need to take 32. If you, for a student who ever decided not to complete the other degree in the dual degree program, they would have to come back to Rollins and take the full 42 credits. But yes, it's 1 year and 32 credits.
Okay, thank you. We have another question regarding merit scholarships. The notification regarding a scholarship will go out via email, and it will also populate in your Opus account. However, the notification does go out via email regarding saying that a decision has been made regarding your scholarship. So if you have any questions, again, please email us at admissions. And
I saw another question that we have regarding their personal situation regarding deferring and some funding. Please do reach out to the admissions office specifically with your question and your own personal information.
Thank you. So Madison would like to know, how flexible is the curriculum in terms of electives, and how many electives are students typically allowed to take over the course of 2 years at Rollins?
Sure, Madison. So as I noted, in the curriculum, the 42 credits are accounted for via required classes, but you're welcome to go above and beyond that 42 credits. Like I said, many of our students graduate somewhere between 48 and 52 credits. So anything you want to take beyond the 42 can be taken either at Rollins or in other schools at Emory, and that's all included in your tuition, as we do have flat rate tuition. So that's pretty much how electives work.
Thank you. And so Candace would like to know if BSHE or Rollins assisted students with securing practicum experience.
Sure. So I think the students would be great to speak to this, but I'll just say that at Rollins we do have a career development center that is fully staffed. So people that are constantly developing opportunities as well as helping students with that, not only the practicum process, but just finding other jobs during their time here, as well as post-graduation employment. Another thing I think that's really neat about our Career Development Center is it is available to our graduates as well as our current students. So if you're out in the workforce for a few years and decide you need a job change, they're still there and available for you. But I'll let the students speak to how they've used the resources at Rollins as well as Emory.
So I am part of the Injury and Violence Prevention Certificate my certificate advisor was really willing to help me form connections and try to find a practicum. That is not how I ended up finding my practicum. I used a friend of mine, but he was there to help me kind of navigate that and did give me some options. Also, the Rollins Earn and Learn positions often turn into practicum experiences, and Megan and Zari, the ADAPs, they are, when they hear about practicum positions, they send it out to us as a whole class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, a few of my friends are in the Earn and Learn, and that turned into their practicum. I'm actually speaking with one of my TAs who's a PhD student, and he's helping introduce me to some people. So hopefully that, personally for me, will turn into a practicum, and just getting email updates, from Megan and Zari. I'm actually about to apply to one today, or two today. So there's a lot of opportunities, and I mean, even the faculty are they're one of my favorite things about the schools. They're so approachable. My roommate, she's actually going abroad for a practicum. She just reached out to some professors. One sat down with her, and they got the ball rolling on her Jiffy and other things. So I think there's a lot of support from other students, from faculty, and also just from the department in general.
Great, thank you. So we do have a question in regards to the REAL program. The REAL program is not need-based. It is based off of first come, first serve. So as soon as you fill out your FAFSA, it is reviewed by the Central Financial Aid Office here at Emory University. And if you are awarded the REAL program, it would show up within your awards, but it's not the same as need-based financial aid. So just keep that in mind, that while it is reviewed on a first come, first serve basis, it's not based off of need. And so we also have another question regarding timeline, and when you hear about REAL, again, anything related to financial aid and REAL, it shows up within your Opus account underneath your financial aid, and you would see that funding information there.
And I see we have a student with some similar questions about deferring, funding, as well as timeline for that. I'd really encourage you to reach out personally to either admissions or the BSHE at Rollins email address, and we can make sure that we guide you appropriately.
Thank you. All right, so if you're unable to come to Emory for a planned admissions event, what is the best way to see the school and meet students and faculty at BSHE?
You email that BSHE at Rollins web address, and we'll set up a visit day for you. That typically includes sitting in on a class, meeting with a current student, and meeting with one of the ADAPs. And we also, depending on the day, will try to get you a tour with admissions as well.
Okay, thank you. So Barrett is considering doing a dual degree, but is still unsure about that. So is it possible to apply for a dual degree once you have already started the MPH program?
No, it is not. You must apply and be admitted to both programs before starting either.
Okay. And so Taylor would like to know, are most classes offered during the day, or is there an opportunity for a student to work and be a full-time student at the same time?
The vast majority of BSHE courses are offered during the day. It would be nearly impossible to complete the program with a traditional full-time work schedule, which would be the 9 to 5 and take classes at night.
Okay, all right, thank you. Do students typically have time to hold a part-time job? So kind of a similar question during the fall and the spring, aside from practicum, research, and assistant work.
So yes, we do have students that work. It depends on how you would like to structure your time. So typically our students, we say, in addition to their full-time course load, typically work between 10 and 20 hours a week. And it's all about how you would like to structure your time.
And your schedule, like you do have some control, like over the days that you're on campus versus the times, like you can work that around, whether you're willing to work the weekends, like there's some flexibility in that too.
But I do, in terms of being able to do it, I know a lot of students do work either, through the Rollins Earn and Learn or just something on campus, but also have jobs outside of that or have 2 part-time jobs. So yeah, it's just a matter of what your schedule looks like, how you want to spend your time, but it's definitely doable. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I see a question on scholarships and how that affects tuition. we do have flat rate tuition here at Rollins. So whether you take the 42 credits or you take 52 credits or even more, the tuition remains the same.
Yes, and also we had a really awesome webinar with the financial aid lead over at Central Financial Aid here at Emory. And so if you want to go to our YouTube page, they do a really good job of breaking down how the tuition works and what coverage looks like and some additional funding as well, opportunities. So I would invite you to go watch that webinar because we did cover a lot of that information on there as well. So we have a question about a student who, if you're out of the country and you wouldn't be able to visit before the program begins, what's another way to see campus? Is there like a virtual opportunity? Do you all do additional webinars or Skype calls?
So yeah, we could definitely look into that. If you have further questions, definitely email BSHE at Rollins. I see the email as well as a couple other people that coordinate visits and helping our students through the process. So definitely contact that email address. With your questions. Also, feel free to reach out to any of the faculty on our page. Our faculty have conducted Skype calls in the past. If you're more interested in learning about them and their research, it's something we're very open to.
Great, thank you. We have a question regarding the dual degree program, and if you're not accepted into one of the programs, if you can still pursue the BSHE. So kind of how our dual degree, I'm sorry, did you want to?
Yeah, I can answer that. Yeah, so like I mentioned before, if you are interested in pursuing a dual degree, and very few of our students are actually in the dual degree, it's truly a handful that are pursuing that option. So you must apply and be admitted to both programs separately in order to be eligible to do the dual degree. If you apply to both programs and you're not accepted into one, you're welcome to still, and you're admitted to the MPH, you're welcome to still pursue the MPH but as a traditional student, so it would be the traditional 2 years.
Great. So these might be some great questions for our students. What are some apartments you all recommend that are in the area of the school? Or where do you live? You can kind of talk about either.
So I actually live in a house. It was a very lucky situation where the person I stayed with during visit Emory, her 2 other roommates were graduating, so she reached out to me. But I know there's there's a few apartments near campus that I have friends that who live there. Campus Crossing is one. There's Post Briarcliff, and I've been to both, and they're very nice and pretty close to the school. But
the Gables complexes, there are a couple of those around, so those are really nice. I live in a complex called Villas on Briarcliff, which is a little bit farther away from campus. It's not too far, but it's nice. I enjoy that. There are a lot of people that find houses, so there's a lot of residential areas around with rooms for rent, or the whole house is like students from across Emory. There's like once you're admitted, there's like a thing. Yeah.
So you actually have some additional options. Facebook is a great way. We have you'll be admitted into the cohort Facebook page, but students often utilize the off-campus housing link. It's kind of like we always joke and say it's like dating but for housing. I'm joking, you're not dating, but you're essentially able to go on there. People post their profile, their information, everything from I'm a med student and I work late at night and I leave dishes in the sink, or I'm a really clean person, I have a pet, or I'm married, and you can see if they do have a house or if they're in an apartment. A lot of times they post pictures, so it's a great way for you to see other students. Everyone on there has been vetted, so they've been background checked, and they're a student here at the university, not necessarily through Rollins, but any of the schools. And also with the Visit Emory, when you come, if you do come, the agenda will have, or the program will actually have listing of housing opportunities and availability, as well as subletting information. So we're gathering that information right now, and it'll be available to you as well. So you'll be able to get some additional housing information.
And at Visit Emory, there's tours of Campus Crossings, which is the closest.
And I see a question here that kind of leads in as well, is do you suggest having a car in Atlanta? I can speak a little bit from personal experience, although it's just being my own experiences as staff, is I actually live within a couple miles of campus, but I use the Emory shuttle system exclusively. I actually don't bring a car to campus. So I can say, my own experience with the Emory shuttle is it's very reliable, and there's lots of stops and lots of shuttles running. But I would be interested to hear about how the students get around Atlanta and what's their experience.
So I do have a car because I moved from Michigan, so half my stuff came in there. I walk to class often because I actually live fairly close. But if it's raining or something, I do have a car and a parking pass, so I drive as well. I think it's useful just because, I don't know, I like to take fitness classes around Atlanta, so kind of getting across town, like having a car to get across town is easy. But there's a bus system, the MARTA system. Also, my roommates, some of them are from the area and have cars, so I mean, someone around does have a car if you need to get somewhere. I personally have one, so I can speak to that experience.
Sure.
I also have a car. I don't have a parking pass, so I can only park like at Rollins at certain times without having to pay for it. And I live, like I mentioned earlier, a little bit further out, but I drive to the end of the shuttle stop. So we have a few shuttle stops that go like kind of far out from campus. So I drive to the end of the shuttle stop and park, and then take the shuttles into campus. So it's definitely doable without a car. I could walk to that shuttle stop if I really wanted to, but I don't. But as far as like the greater Atlanta area, you can get around without a car. That is a thing. I mean, Uber and Lyft are both here doing their thing, but it is more convenient. But you can absolutely live here without a car.
All right, so we have a great question of if you choose a thesis for your culminating experience, when do you pose your original research question?
Sure. So in BSHE, we provide a lot of, like I mentioned, a lot of guidance around making that decision, whether a capstone or a thesis. And if you are planning to pursue a thesis, we need to know what your question is, as well as who is going to be on your committee on April 1st of your first year. So that deadline is coming up for our first year students. But like I said, we provide lots of guidance around that topic. So it's not just kind of like you hear the deadline in August and you never hear of it again. We provide a lot of talking points to help you with the decision.
Right. So for current undergraduate students, what experiences do you recommend them earning, like volunteer, research, job-wise?
Sure. So when we're looking, the admissions committee is looking at applications. We would just look in terms of experience, of course, what level of experience you have. But every student in our cohort has touched public health in some way. It may vary in level or depth, but our students have all touched public health in some way. So I'd encourage you to look at the opportunities that most interest you. We have some students who are more interested in public health research. We have some students who are more interested in public health at the community level. So I would encourage you to pursue whatever option makes sense for you and what you think you want to do, and just keep working on building that public health repertoire.
All right. We have another question regarding thesis. What are some reasons that students choose a thesis over a capstone or a capstone over a thesis?
Sure. I think William being a second year, he has already made the decision, is wrapping up his culminating experience, so perhaps he could tell us why he made the decision he did.
So I chose a capstone over thesis, and I was kind of decided on that early on, like when I was applying and saw that there was an option, because I had worked on a thesis in undergrad, but also I am not a research person, and a thesis is generally research heavy, with data collection, data analysis, and all of that, and I was not about that. So I chose a capstone. Specifically, I'm in the health equity capstone, which kind of gives me, will give me by the end, subject matter expertise. Specifically, my capstone is about masculinity and the harmful effects that can happen with suicide and homicide. But so like becoming a subject matter expert in that, and then using that in my career, but less about like hard research.
And so I think Monica's in the decision phase.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you could speak a little bit about what you're weighing and how you're making your decision.
Yeah, so before coming to Rollins, I did have a lot of research experience, and I think for me personally, I enjoy that path, and I think I want to stay in that path. So I'm actually considering a thesis right now, and it kind of just depends on how it aligns with the practicum and getting data. But I really think that I will be doing research post-graduation and potentially trying to go into academia. And it's just writing a thesis interests me, like being involved in research. I would love to kind of get data that's my own, analyze it, write this whole thing. So that's where I'm coming from.
And I will say that regardless of which option you choose, you can use, like, if you want to go into academia, you don't have to do a thesis. You can do a capstone and still go into academia. If you want to do programming, you can still do a thesis and not, so like you tailor the content of your project to what you want to do.
Absolutely. So yeah, we would definitely echo that, from the staff side.
So we do have a question regarding proximity of Emory to Spelman, Georgia Tech, and Morehouse. So a little bit about Atlanta. You have to learn the waves of traffic. So if you're in the morning, you're going to hit some hardcore traffic, probably midday, and then at 3 o'clock, traffic starts, and you're going to be in traffic until like 6. No, I'm joking, but it depends on the area. But from Emory, without traffic, you're probably about 22 to 25 minutes. From Spelman, Georgia Tech, and Morehouse, that area. But Atlanta itself is actually comprised of different little areas. So you have to remember it's not just Atlanta. So you have like North Druid Hills, Decatur, different areas around. So there are a bunch of communities that everyone in as a whole says Atlanta. So you'll kind of learn your way around once you get here in navigating the area, if that makes sense.
Right, and especially learning the shuttle system too is because Emory has hospitals in Midtown. Which is where Georgia Tech is. So if you ever wanted to get to Midtown, you could always easily take the Emory shuttle because they regularly run shuttles from the Emory Clinic, which is here, to Emory Midtown.
And there's a Georgia Tech shuttle that comes to campus as well. I don't know its schedule compared to the Emory shuttle, but there is one.
Yes, and we also are right beside the CDC, so a lot of times that's another reason students like to take shuttle system instead of parking because we do share parking and things like that with CDC members as well. All right, so we have a student in regards to coming straight from undergrad and not having previous experience in the field. Is there any sort of training or preparation when entering positions for the real program or the practicum?
So with both the real program and the practicum, both our career development office as well as any sort of faculty can help you if you have any questions or you're a little bit nervous about beginning that process. But you can also always talk to your ADAP as well. But there's no specific guidelines. There is a small orientation for students pursuing the real program. But in terms of preparing for those experiences, if you feel like you want to prepare a little bit more, there's definitely resources, but not anything specific that you have to go to.
And you have to remember this is kind of set up like applying for jobs, but these organizations are working with us so that you can get on the job experience so that you can build your skill sets within public health. So you're not expected to be an expert. You'll be learning a lot on the job with these positions. So keep that in mind when you're kind of thinking about that. So Bridget would like to know, you mentioned that some BSHE students end up working at Deloitte. Do you happen to know what kind of work they do there?
Sure. So one student that comes to the top of my head, she's doing a lot of consulting and a lot of contract work with the CDC and some international projects. If you have more specific questions about what kind of careers our students go to, the Office of Career Development takes a survey every year, both at graduation as well as 6 months out, as well as a year out. And so you can get a little bit more information about not only where our students have worked, the type of work they've gone into, whether that be private, which would be something more like consulting or nonprofit work or governmental, as well as a little bit more information about what they're doing. And I'd be happy to go into more detail too if you email the BSHE at Rollins site.
Okay, we have a great question regarding percentage of students coming straight from undergrad versus students who have worked. So from the admission side, overall it's about 40% are straight from undergrad. You can actually see the statistics on our website as well as the career services, but I will let Megan speak specifically to BSHE, but as far as admissions, about 40% of our students are straight from undergrad.
Yeah, so I would say a really good portion of our students are either directly from undergrad or that 1 or 2 years out. We do have some other students that have maybe more than 5 to 7 years, or we even do have a handful of students that have a significant amount of work experience. But the large majority of our students are either directly from undergrad or that 1 to 2 year span. And maybe Monica and William can tell us when they came for the MPH, where they were.
Yeah, so I worked for 2 years after I graduated and then came to Rollins, but there's just such a mix. I mean, I think during our orientation when they said, oh, who's, just out of undergrad, it seemed like half the room kind of like stood up. So yeah, I worked for a few years, but yeah, some of my friends have come straight from undergrad, I think. Either way. Yeah,
I worked, I did AmeriCorps for a year and then worked for 2 after that. So I was out of undergrad for 3 before coming back. But a similar kind of perspective is that it feels like there are a good mix of people from both tracks.
And so one student would like to know, what were your majors when you came, what were your undergraduate majors before coming here?
Yeah, so my undergraduate major is really long, but it was biopsychology, cognition, and neuroscience, which essentially is kind of like behavioral neuroscience. It's not as intense as it sounds. But yeah, my background was essentially in like behavior, human behavior, animal behavior, and I was interested in addiction, so that was what I focused on in undergrad.
And do you feel it prepared you? That's the 2 parts.
Yeah. Oh no, I definitely think I felt very prepared coming to grad school. I also find it to be a different type of work ethic, I guess. Since most of the classes are very skill-based, I find it's more just time management and, doing just the assigned projects and other things.
I double majored in biology and psychology in undergrad. And I think for me, I would have felt prepared had I come straight to undergrad, because specifically for the BSHE department, I didn't really have too much public health experience in undergrad, a little bit towards the end, but the psychology, the blend of like psychology and biology and the skills kind of work well with like the behavioral science and the health education aspect.
And I'll echo, we have a large range in BSHE for undergraduate majors, as we don't have any specific prereqs for the program. We have students ranging anywhere from engineering to sociology, so we do have quite a mix of undergraduate majors in the incoming cohort every year.
Yeah, a friend of mine was like a film major in undergrad, so do what you love.
Yeah.
Could you all, as students, speak about campus diversity and what campus life is like for you all?
I think I love Rollins because I think it's extremely diverse. People all from all over as well, not just But in terms of campus life, so I mean, I'm part of the Rollins student government, so I get involved in that and other events that we hold. Rollins holds social events. Sometimes we have mixers across the different schools. There's a lot of speakers that are always coming during like lunch hours or even, towards the end of the day. So I'd say there's a lot to do. Busy campus life. There's always, I don't know, I feel like there's always really interesting, awesome events going on. So
I think that individual people experience Rollins a little bit differently based on the communities that you come from. So you're always comparing Rollins to like your undergraduate institution and like, how diverse that may have been versus how diverse Rollins is. And so it's all relative. But we do have affinity organizations for like racial minorities, sexual minorities, and you can find an organization to support you either at Rollins or across campus. And so we do have a student-led diversity and inclusion committee that you can be a part of. And the school, Rollins, has a community and diversity committee where faculty are trying to like strive for diversity on a school-wide level. So there are opportunities there.
And I'll just add a little bit to campus life. It's been my experience as one of the advisors in the department is we have really a full-fledged kind of student community here at Rollins, and I think it's largely because we're pretty much a full-time experience as far as graduate programs go. So not only is there a Rollins-specific student government, there's also, I believe, 19 student organizations just within Rollins, and you're also eligible to join Emory student organizations. But just within Rollins, and the Rollins student organizations, of course, tend to be a little bit more health-related. For example, Emory students for reproductive health and so forth. So there's just a lot of opportunity to get involved.
And also, we also have admission statistics. So, for example, we're at 43% students of color and 20% international. So we're moving on up. We're really excited about that. We really are proud as a school of public health we pride ourselves on being diverse and welcoming. And so we have students from the age of 21 all the way up to 65. So I can definitely say Rollins is definitely a pretty diverse place. But moving forward, what paths are you all on, or what are you planning to do after you graduate?
Good question. Well, hopefully, so I'm considering doing a PhD, but I'll probably work for a few years before I pursue that, just to make sure that's the path I want to pursue. But I'm hoping that either my current, being a research assistant or the practicum maybe culminates into a job position later on, or doing something harm reduction related. So I'm not sure of the specifics, but I definitely want to work for a little while and then consider doing a PhD program.
I don't have an interest in doing PhD at the moment. I do want to continue my work in violence prevention, doing social change campaigns, working with youth to empower them to affect change in their communities. So it would most likely be a nonprofit situation. There are some government jobs that I'm looking at. I haven't applied to anything at the moment. I should probably get on that. But it's going to be fun.
So I'm going to hit you with another whammy question. What made you choose Rollins? We have a student who is interested to know what made you choose Rollins, or if you were considering another school.
So for me, one important thing was I did want to get out of state, out of Michigan, because I lived there my whole life. What really sold me was the visit Emory, and I really recommend if you can come visit at some point, please do. What really sold me for BSHE was the faculty, how passionate they were. They're so approachable. Even the students, I just found Rollins to be very genuine, and I love the environment. I love that I could, walk up to anyone and just start talking about what I was interested in, and it just feels like faculty are so willing to help you. Students, if they hear of opportunities, like my friends will forward me emails about various opportunities because they know that I'm interested in substance use disorder and harm reduction. So it was a great fit for me. I really liked the environment. It just felt supportive. Warm weather in Atlanta was also very nice. Yeah, I would say those were my main reasons.
I chose Rollins because I'm from Tennessee. I was working in Florida before coming back, so this gets me a little closer to home, but still far enough away, But similar, I did come to visit Emory. I really liked the school, the environment, and there are some content courses that I actually enjoyed. I took Violence as a Public Health Problem, which was really important for me in a school to have a course that identified violence as a public health problem. I also wanted to take the LGBT health course, which actually wasn't offered when I got here, but we were able to get it back on the books, and so I'm in it this semester. And so that's been great. So you can affect change that way. If courses existed and they aren't being offered currently, you can get that ball rolling. And the faculty are just so great in BSHE specifically.
And I know our students have to get going back to class. We're wrapping up, but I see I could probably answer these last 4 questions rather quickly.
Sure.
And then, so just, do real and practicum positions ever result in a full-time job offer? And they do. So it depends also if the organization is looking for a full-time person. But yes, we've had that occur. And perhaps Wendy could help me out on this. Do you find that any return Peace Corps volunteers in the program? And I believe Rollins has one of the largest return Peace Corps contingents.
Yes, and we also have funding available that you can apply for as a Peace Corps volunteer or AmeriCorps. So that's something that we encourage students who are returning to look into.
And there's a student organization specifically for return Peace Corps volunteers.
Excellent.
And how are students matched with a faculty advisor? Is it possible to switch advisors if needed? So I'll speak a little bit to the mentoring in the department. So Zari and I, as ADAPs, we do serve as the academic advisors in the department. So questions about, making sure you're doing what you need to do to graduate. And you're assigned by us by last name. Students A through L will be with Zari. Students M through Z will be with me. In terms of a faculty mentor, and that's someone to speak to about your public health interest or how you should go about your public health goals. We look at your applications to see who might be a good fit given personal interest. But unlike, that's a good starting point, but you're really welcome to talk to anyone if you end up finding somebody that you feel like you really mesh with. It doesn't need to be an official change because it's not recorded in our systems or anything like that, but you're welcome to speak to them, and the faculty are definitely open to having conversations about their interest and what your public health interests are. But we do give you a starting point based on the interest you indicated in your application. And do many students at Rollins stay in Atlanta after completing their degree? I don't have the exact statistics on that. Anecdotally, I can say that a lot do. That may have not necessarily been from here, but I found that the Rollins name carries weight. So if you're not interested in staying in Atlanta and you're maybe looking to go back home or to locate somewhere else, it's a name that is recognized. And then we just have, if people receive funding as return Peace Corps volunteers, are they also eligible for need-based aid? Yes, you just want to make sure that you submit your FAFSA in order to be considered for any sort of need-based aid.
Yes, and the Central Financial Aid Office can kind of talk to you more about packaging and how that works. So if you receive a grant but it's not full tuition, but you either have a loan or another funding source or a scholarship, they can talk to you more about how packaging works with students. So we have about 4 minutes left.
Okay. So this question about, comparing Rollins to other schools, we've really encouraged our students to really look at the other schools that they're considering and look at curriculum, visit if possible, and just decide what makes the most sense for you.
So, do we have any other questions? All right, so we're going to wrap it up. If you do decide that you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to answer any that you have. But sorry about that, everybody. Technical difficulties. But you can either reach out to the general admissions email or the BSHE email address, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you all again for attending. We hope you have a great rest of your day, or if you're getting ready for bed, great night, and we'll talk to you soon, or hopefully see you soon at Visit Emory. Bye. Thank you.